Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos, doggone it. My name is John Boy. I am your host, John Francis Fahey. Joining me, as ever, is Sperman Troyer.
The mini-me?
Mini-P.
Mini-P?
Mini-P. Tinkle.
You compete me?
Yeah.
Compete me.
Aaron Joseph Peter, folks.
Yeah, that's me, man. I'm here.
Here he is.
It's my name. Don't wear it out.
Sup?
Sup, dude?
Sup?
How are you?
I'm grand.
Good.
Great.
You got you to my left here. In front of me, we've got notorious pornographer and 80s pop culture icon, Max Hardcore Headroom.
Oh.
Nice. Bringing them together. My Chicago history.
I like that.
Max Hardcore Headroom?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Dropping fucking loads. Gentlemen, how are we?
Good.
Pretty good.
Here in this beautiful fucking studio. So fucking nice.
That's right.
Big fucking neon shit behind me. All kinds of nasty shit.
Nasty shit fucking everywhere.
Nasty shit fucking everywhere. Yeah, check out Heath Barcelona. I did tell somebody about Heath Barcelona recently because they told me that they knew one of those pickup artist guys.
No, which one?
Jazz?
I forget the name.
Tyler Durden.
Robelo?
And she was like,
Julian.
yeah, and then he kind of stopped doing that, and I was like, and he went into breath work.
Yeah, they all go into like
And she goes, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Another scam.
Yeah.
another fucking scam.
Yeah.
Those guys are fucking a month away from like coming in their own mouths and drinking their own pee
Mm-hmm.
and doing like male bonding workshops.
But they also always have to have like a complex in Malibu.
Oh yeah, very
Well,
good.
They
how
rent.
else-
That
yeah.
they rent.
Of course.
How else are you going to get the people you trick?
Yeah, you can't plant down seats, roots for too long because you might need to up and leave on a kind of
right.
Interpol.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, gentlemen, we're here to get into funny business. And what I mean is funny book business.
The funnies?
Yes.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
Aaron-
pretty good.
I am told that you are going to provide us with a profile today
That's right.
of one Kirby Jack.
Yes, that's right. Today we're doing part one.
Oh!
Part
To be continued.
of Jack the King Kirby.
Mm-hmm. Worshipped.
Not worshipped enough, I'd tell you that. I think you and I both know that and would agree with that statement.
I already agree.
Matt, would you agree?
I don't know.
No.
Hey, perfect.
You
We
gotta-
have an audience surrogate.
You got to convince him.
Yeah,
Jury
I
over
didn't
here.
say no. I just said I don't know.
I just said
exactly. We got to convince you.
Ah.
That was
Matt with the drops.
That was
Research here compiled 99%.
By the beautiful
By the beautiful
Laura
Laura
Crawford.
Crawford.
wow. Laura,
Really did a
thank you.
bang up job on this research.
She is some.
I only say 99% because I printed it out.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good.
I mean, I've got a couple other things here, but really, she did just
Bang up
a
job.
real bang up job on this research. Can't thank her enough, and just give.
We
her
love you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
just really, I had stuff in my head that I had done some research on, and as I turn a page, it's there. As I turn a page, it's there.
I
So,
love
Nice.
it. I love it.
thank you, Laura, and give her your love, audience.
Yes.
This is part one of Jack the King Kirby. Many of you might know him most famously as the creator. Maybe some of you might not know this. Fantastic Four, the Eternals,
Okay.
Kirby Crackle,
Mhm.
and
I actually don't know everything he's done. He did not create Captain America?
he did curate Captain America.
Okay. And then I know he's got DC people.
The Fourth World stuff at DC.
Cool.
Alright.
And no affiliation with the Nintendo character, Kirby.
None, as far as I know.
Okay.
He is not a floating orb animal.
That takes the power of what it swallows.
That's right.
Okay.
He may.
Just like
I mean,
my
he was in
lovers.
the military. We're going to get to
Mm.
what kind of weird shit went on there.
cool.
Guys, on August 28th, 1917, Jacob Kurtzberg was the first child born to parents Rose and Benjamin Kurtzberg in Manhattan's Lower East Side. They were immigrants from the same area in Galicia. Now, not the Galicia of my parentage in the northwestern corner of Spain. This is Galicia, which was then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire,
I see.
a cultural hotspot and haven for Jewish refugees from the Russian Empire. His mother came from a modest background. She and her sisters left their home for New York City when she was still a young child. And his father, Ben, was from a more well-to-do family, and his father needed to emigrate from Galicia for security reasons.
Do you know what part of the empire that would be modern day?
Somewhere in between Austria and Hungary.
Copy. Okay, sure.
Matt can pull it up on a map. According to his father's stories, he had offended a local member of the German aristocracy. The Duke, who was an expert marksman, challenged Ben to a duel, swords or pistols, drawn at dawn. Ben knew he didn't stand a chance in a duel, so he talked to his father, and they both agreed that if he wanted to live, he had to hightail it to the United States of America. He had relatives chip in for his ticket, and his father gave him a little bit of cash to get started in America. His ship, the Potsdam, arrived in New York City on July 30th, 1907. But not too long thereafter, his money ran out, so he had been trained as a trailer.
I'm sorry, did you say 1907?
Yeah, that's when he got there.
Okay, copy.
10 years later,
Got it.
Jack would be born. So he had found work in the city's garment industry. Around this time, around 5.5 million people called New York City home, most of them immigrants or children of immigrants. Manhattan was the most densely populated 2 square miles on the planet. So Jack's parents, Ben and Rose, met through the Austrian community in New York. A matchmaker set them up.
Fun.
Matchmaker, make me a match. After the wedding, they moved into a $12 a month apartment in the Lower East Side. When baby Jakey arrived, Ben was sewing pants in a sweatshop, while Rose was doing piecework sewing from home.
Huh.
Piecework. Oh, like pieces of material?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
5 years later, Rose gave birth to a second son, David, right there on the kitchen table.
Whoa.
It's a multi-purpose table.
Yeah.
You have one table.
Yeah, you could have
Everything.
dinner there. I think they did the bris there later.
Whoa.
And who ate it? Does it say?
Oh, Jacob. The dog.
Yeah.
Rose came from a family of storytellers, so Jake and David grew up listening to tales of vampires, werewolves, and demigods on their
Wow.
mother's knee. She called them Wundermeses, or wonder stories,
Cool.
from the old country. The Kurtzbergs were also conservative Jews, so they sent their boys to Hebrew school, and the rabbi would allow Jacob to tell his stories, his mother's stories, in front of the whole class as entertainment.
Wow.
But Jacob would go on to tell a journalist that these were the confrontational days when people of different backgrounds had to live together, and it hasn't changed. There's still anti-Semitism today, and he said that the kids in the neighborhood just naturally divided themselves into gangs based on ethnicity.
Sure, yeah.
So as a smaller kid, he was a bit of a runt, and so he had to prove his toughness amongst the neighborhood youths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He only ended up getting to about 5'3" as an adult.
Wow.
His younger brother grew up much larger, up to 6'1" by the time he was a teenager. But when they were kids, they joined a gang of Jewish kids from Suffolk Street, and I think this would later kind of, be mirrored a little bit in Ben Grimm, the Yancey Street Gang. Jewish kids
Oh,
from New
yeah.
York.
Okay, that way, yeah, of course. Sure.
So they'd fight a gang of Italian kids from the block over, or a gang of black kids from the block past that. The fucking mom liked to dress David up in lace collars and velvet pants. So he's got like curly blonde hair, so he looked like a little Lord Fauntleroy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You didn't have any sisters?
No.
Okay.
No. So Jake had to defend David from the neighborhood bullies almost every day. One time, one of these gangs was beating up David, and Jake had to take them all on in a fight. And he could see the action playing out in his mind like in slow motion. And so he said that these scraps would often escalate into climb-out fights, which were fights where you would climb the fuck out of there. You climb fire escapes. You climb to the top of the building. You fight on the roof, and you fight all the way down again. You kind of like picture this kind of like panel by panel motion of what he would be very famous for is his action and his staging.
Yes.
Was very
and the physicality.
Yes.
The figure is the thing.
Yes, the way he put his figures in motion.
Liefeld always says that the figure work is like
ahead of its time.
Yeah, way ahead of its time.
Though he never got seriously injured, he definitely, took some knocks. He said there was one time they knocked me out and laid me out in front of my mother's door, and in order for my mother not to be shocked, they readjusted my clothes and they saw that nothing was rumpled and I looked very comfortable next to the apartment door. Yeah. So they beat the shit out of him and then they like put his clothes back together.
But
he just fell asleep.
Respect, like a hockey fight. We're all
get in trouble.
Yeah.
He was so much, he was so involved in fighting as a kid that he once took the subway to the Bronx to find out if kids fought differently over there.
Wow.
I hear in the Bronx they use open palms.
These fucking bastards.
Yeah.
And he said I got sick of chasing people all over rooftops and having them chase me all over rooftops. But those fights would, have an impact on his later works. Like I said, you'd see his early books on Captain America. That I drew the things that I knew. In one fight scene I drew, I recognized my uncle. I'd subconsciously drawn my uncle, and I didn't know until I took the page home.
Wow.
So his father's still working, tirelessly in these garment factories, but, family's still having trouble making ends meet. Jacob would go out selling newspapers from the time he was old enough, and he knew that it was necessary to help his family out, in the same way that all of his friends did at that time. And because he was a newsie, right? Or newsboy, one or the other, the same thing.
Yeah. Newsie, yeah.
Yeah. He started falling in love with newspaper strip cartoons.
Yes.
Barney Google, Prince Valiant, and the Flash Gordon series.
Yes.
And so he would doodle little adventures and follies on every scrap piece of paper that he could get his hands on, or on the walls of tenement buildings, or in his own flesh.
No.
Nah, not that far.
Not yet.
But, the money would help him buy his family groceries, and his parents would give him a couple pennies a week so he could, go see a movie in the cinema.
Yeah.
And, the spectacle and action and the characters of Hollywood electrified his imagination.
Sure.
He said, I was raised by the cinema. My mother used to come there when she was looking for me. I would watch Chaplin and Buster Keaton. I saw the Marx Brothers perform live at the Academy of Music on 14th Street before they were film stars.
Yeah.
One day when he was leaving his classes at PS20, he came across some inspiration. He saw a pulp magazine in the street floating toward the sewer. So I pick up this pulp magazine, and it's Wonder Stories. And it's got this rocket ship on the cover. I'd never seen a rocket ship. I said, what the heck is this?
The fuck?
I took it home, and I hid it under the pillow so nobody should know I'm reading it like it's a fucking porno.
No, Mom, it's porn.
It's not sci-fi. It's just porno.
Yeah. I mean, as good as porn back then, probably.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this rocket shit?
The reasoning behind hiding the pulp was twofold. He didn't want his fellows, his friends catching him reading it or doing anything academic outside of school. And number two, if people by and large, thought you were an idiot if you read pulp magazines.
Yeah.
And he would later go on to say that the pulp magazines were my writing school.
Yeah, and it helps you learn to read, too. I mean,
maybe if you're a fucking 45-year-old man reading a pulp at that time, maybe you are. They'll be like, if you're a kid and you pick one up, like, you're going to learn how to read.
Yeah, and story structure and...
Yeah, and I think we've probably covered in other things later, like, pulp became, like, the bulk of what everybody was reading, when it becomes, like, maybe, like, the 40s, 50s.
Absolutely. My heroes, he would say, my heroes were the men who wrote the pulps and the men who made the movies. Every hero I've ever written or drawn since then has been an amalgam of what I believed them to be. When he was 11 years old, he started checking out books from the library about how to draw. My anatomy was self-taught. I searched it out and I made my own muscles and I made my figures as powerful as I could.
Yeah.
He said, you learn perspective. Well, if you're brought up in the city, if it doesn't look right, you'll know it. And so you look at his childhood sketchbooks they're just pencil drawings of carefully shaded figures and scenes with like almost professional level of expertise.
Yeah.
He said that, I knew that there was something better than his own surroundings. And my instinct told me that it was uptown. So every day I'd walk from my block to 42nd Street where the Daily News was, where I could be near the Journal, the Hearst newspapers, and I'd run errands for the reporters. Jacob enrolled at the New York's Pratt Institute when he was 14 years old back in 1931, but he only lasted there a week. And he said, I didn't like places with rules. But it actually was due to the fact that his dad lost his job as a tailor during the Great Depression, and his family couldn't afford the tuition. So he had to take on any odd jobs that he could. Sometimes he would help his father sell produce on the street.
Probably also didn't like rules, though.
I think that's definitely part of who he is, and we see it a little bit later on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you already see him finding his own path, taking the bus, going up there. He likes he thinks there's action uptown.
Learning, he very much learned on his own.
Yeah.
But he did have this weird, and we'll get to it a little later on, yes, I don't like rules, and I kind of find my own way about things, but once he kind of gets into a system, he almost like masochistically takes his licks for that system.
Oh, okay.
To his own like personal detriment.
Yeah.
So he doubles down on learning how to draw. He took free drawing classes at the Educational Alliance, a non-profit started by Jewish philanthropists.
No way.
His teacher said that he drew too fast with charcoal and needed to slow down. He still, regardless of their criticism, he felt the drawing was still his best shot at a career. At 16, he joined the Boys Brotherhood Republic, which was a youth-led initiative to teach inner-city young men about responsibility and self-governance. And he was an artist for the group's newspaper. And he launched his own regular comic strip called K's Conceptions.
It's Conceptions.
With a K.
Yeah.
K's Conceptions.
If you're reading this at 3:45.
Yeah. We're here once again with K's Conceptions. Just talking shit about the buses.
He's I'm out here trying to get produce at 4 in the morning.
The Puerto Ricans, they knife me. They love to knife me.
They're knifey. They're stabby.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone else finding that?
Yeah.
He was also shopping his samples of comic strip drawings to all the publishing editors in New York, but just rejection letter after rejection letter. Mother was not thrilled with son going into the arts.
Yeah. That is the thing, though, too, though, like, where it's like, Manhattan at that time, it's like, you can walk to the New Yorker or whatever, just for instance.
Yeah.
And just be like, I got these tunes.
Yeah.
What do you think? You walk up there like big old flat clapboards with like just hundreds of pages of drawings. What do you think?
You can get, like your rejection in person,
Yeah. Well, they toss you out. They throw
They
you
don't
on the
let you
street.
pass the turnstile. Now you don't have a badge.
But she didn't want him to go into art school. I guess it's probably still Depression time.
Yeah, it's still Depression time.
She's going, we need to make money.
You're right. She said, no son of mine will become an artist. You'll sit around with berets in Greenwich Village and talk to loose women.
Sounds all right.
Hey, that's so bad.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's being an artist.
No, Mom, when you put it that way.
Wow.
As a teenager, the gangster movies were popular. And these gangster movies are hitting, close to home.
Well, and gangsters are popular too, right?
Yeah, man. They're the ones living high on the hog. They're the ones getting respect around.
Yeah.
And so this is around the time he was, people started calling him Jack, except everybody outside of his immediate family. They still call him Jake.
Jake.
And so these crime movies, they're showing attainable lifestyle, like the fantasy of an attainable, quick, get rich quick kind of lifestyle.
And probably the downsides too.
Oh, sure, especially in the movies. So like the New York is producing real life gangsters and the actors that played them.
Right.
So like James Cagney was from the Lower East Side, George Raff was from Hell's Kitchen.
Oh shit.
Jack said, "I want to go to Hollywood to become an actor," and she was like, "No son of mine will become an actor, right?"
Talk to loose women out in there, Sunset Boulevard.
You'll be wearing a Panama hat, talking to loose women down there on Sunset Boulevard.
It is interesting though because like it is. I mean, it's still like a very Jewish industry, especially back then. You know what I mean? It's interesting. Like I always say that like a lot of grades, even to this day in Hollywood, Jewish families are very supportive of the arts. And they'll be like, even like little kids, they'll be like, "Oh, our kids are gonna do this little show for us in the house and stuff like that." You know what I mean? Like,
I think oftentimes, like, you could also say that they're just very supportive of children being enthused about anything. Like, they're like yes, storytelling or acting or music, but also like academics in general. Like,
for sure.
How many of the past Nobel Prize winners for science have been Jewish?
Yes.
But
it seems like there it was
lawyers, accountants.
It's more open, especially at a time when you would be like, vaudeville. My kid's going to vaudeville, like
right.
Like
it was such a area of last resort at that time.
Yeah.
This is the Depression.
Yeah.
And your family needs you right now.
That's true. Yeah, for sure.
And it was just too much of a risk, a moonshot for the family. So when she shot him down about Hollywood, he thought seriously about getting into the rackets, not tennis,
numbers, etc.
Numbers, you know. And so he saw one of his friends went that way. But when that guy got shot, Jack saw how devastated his mother was and gave up on the idea of becoming a gangster. But he was still, into fighting and stuff like that. It was still kind of an everyday situation for him and his peers. But when that carried over to school, then it became a problem. One of their teachers just got them to play basketball in the mornings just to wear them out. That
was James Naismith.
Yes.
Smart.
When they're playing with peach baskets.
Yeah. Yeah, no, great.
Smart move.
Yeah. Hey, fight with sports.
Right, yeah. Get them to work all that energy like fucking dogs.
Yeah.
He says, Jack wasn't always an honorable fighter. Jack said, I used to hide behind a brick wall and wait for 3 guys to pass, and I beat the crap out of them and run like hell.
Just random guys?
Yeah. He started boxing at the BBR, the Boys Brotherhood Republic, and it was a good way to kind of work that out, With his parents' approval, he dropped out of school just shy of the 12th grade. Height of the Great Depression, and his paycheck was more crucial than ever for the family. In spring of 1935, he responded to a newspaper ad for artists posted by Fleischer Studios. Brothers Max and Dave Fleischer, they founded their animation company in 1929, and they produced the Popeye and Betty Boop cartoons.
Oh, shit.
By the middle of the 30s, they were Disney's main competition.
Oh, shit.
And I believe the Fleischer cartoons were also, I think they also did the Superman serials.
Oh.
I believe. But this would be, Superman wasn't created until later.
Yeah.
So, but at this time, they were doing the Popeye and Betty Boop. And they basically ran an animation factory with lots of artists working on one long table, like an assembly line. He was a basically bottom feeding job in the office, opaquing cells on Popeye cartoons.
They did do
what
the
kind of
Superman. Yes.
What year is this?
35 is when he responds to their ad.
Damn, really? I thought.
So Superman was, I think, 38.
Okay.
38, 39. So it'd be a while before that, but they didn't. They did do this, and those cartoons are incredible.
Yeah, they really are. The animation is really smooth, really good.
And like the changing of perspective, like it wasn't like these Popeye cartoons. They really kind of work in 3D space the way they moved Superman around in those cartoons. The work was tedious and not creative. Pay was low, and Jack didn't get along well with his bosses. Their assessment of him was that he was too cocky, too eager to move up. And those studios expected, artists to spend years working the bottom feeding jobs, proving themselves slowly and working their way up the production ladder while surviving off starvation wages.
No, he could have done that in Hollywood.
Come on. While he's talking to loose women on Sunset Boulevard.
But yeah, the balls to be like, no, you gotta pay your dues for years and years.
Eventually, he did get promoted to cleanup work, and he did it in record time. Then they let him work on assistant animating, and he said, I cajoled them into letting me take the test to be an in-betweener. An in-betweener is the artist who fills in the action between the major movement frames. And you could say that this was his earliest formal art training, and that Fleischer Studios is the ones that taught him about movement and exaggeration. He was earning about $15 a week.
Yeah, I mean, I think, because I know on the shows I've worked for, generally all that stuff we send out overseas or to Colombia or something.
Really?
Because
overseas.
We do major poses. We do, if there's a specific pose, we'll do that in studio, send it to them, and it's their job to take the normal pose and get it to there. And I guess you can see how if you're doing those in-between frames, you get pretty good with movement because you're doing all of the movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fluidity has to be. Yeah.
High rep work.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing
small little changes
over and over and over and over again. You start to figure it out.
Yeah.
And in the context too, I have to say of all of that street fighting, you just know how bodies work.
Exactly. I mean, when you look at his stuff, especially Captain America later, you see a guy who's been in fights.
Yeah.
And I mean, what was Cap but an undersized kid who was in a bunch of street fights?
Yeah,
sure.
He would talk about that, about why he created Captain America. We'll talk about that later on as well, and how he identified with him. Of course. That $15 a week would be about $340 a week of today's money. He got some work from the Lincoln Newspaper Syndicate, a small comic syndicate run by Horace G. Elmo.
Good guy.
Most of the work done by Elmo himself, and he just farmed out projects that he couldn't finish. So Jack would do some comic strips and single panel advice cartoons like, "Your health comes first!" 3 exclamation points.
That's true. Always put your face mask over first.
That's right.
First.
You are the master protector of what you love.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, over at Fleischer Studios, the artists were still dealing with cramped conditions, tight deadlines, high quotas, and
huge profits.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just a guy going in there. Draw! Come on!
It's a fucking Viking ship underbelly.
Yeah. But it's Betty Boop. Ooh, I hope I don't get railed.
Guys just drawing in like tiny little help me's.
Yeah.
Like when you get clothes from fucking China.
Yeah.
Dental problems, conditions bad, help. It's like, this is supposed to be the laundry instructions on the tag.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a fortune cookie. Conditions bad, worsening.
These fortune cookies are no good.
So this led to a strike starting in May 1937.
Wow.
Which is ballsy. The strike lasted for 5 months and pushed the Fleischer brothers into moving their studio to Florida.
Right to work state.
Yeah.
Fucking animals.
Jackass.
Bastards.
The fuck are they gonna get in Florida? Some swamp man?
Well,
I bet you I could draw.
half of the crew can't even draw because they cut off their own hands for the insurance money.
Yeah.
They got the pen in their mouth. This guy's great.
Missed my left foot.
Jack was 19. He asked his mother if he could go south to Florida. She goes, no. He goes, okay.
But more.
Jack was still getting some work from Elmo's comic strips, like the Popeye knockoff Socko the Sea Dog. You know Popeye was based off a real person?
Yes, I've seen the picture of that guy.
Popeye the Sailor Man, real guy.
Really?
He looks pretty much exactly like the character.
His spinach.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jack convinced Elmo to let him do an original sci-fi adventure strip named Cyclone Burke. And with that, show of confidence and creative control, Jack was more determined to make Lincoln a successful company. And this is that spin-out of the American dream I was talking about for Kirby, which is, where if you make your boss rich, he'll take care of you.
Yeah.
And over the years, there were many times that Kirby made his bosses rich.
Yeah.
And he was not taken care of in return. Like, famously, out of anybody in the comics industry, except maybe the guy that created Superman. Siegel and Schuster.
Mm-hmm.
Siegel especially, I think, was the one who got really, really fucked over.
Really?
Yeah, I think
Liefeld does.
Liefeld talks about it. And they did a bunch of stuff to, like, make his life comfortable at the end.
Damn.
They could have made his life comfortable by paying him.
Yeah. But it was the guys who were inspired by him who did some philanthropy and charity towards it. But anyways, even though he never stopped believing in that dream of make your bosses rich and you'll get taken care of. It's this very interesting. I can relate.
Oh yeah.
100%. It's a weird.
You do the right thing. You think you're
right.
doing the right thing, and you go like, nah, man, this system's kind of.
I wonder if it's like a conditioning thing, or if is it a male hierarchical thing that's just in us.
Well, I have it because I grew up with my dad as a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
and you did too.
Yeah.
But like, it's a thing when you go like, well, I know my dad's a fair guy,
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of assume. And also, I mean, I would select, you know what I mean? I'm not,
Yeah, it depends on the boss, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not thinking PetSmart's going to take care of me or something, you know what I mean? But like,
If you know them personally.
You're not a dog.
yeah. But no, and other times I did work for people, but once I decided they were fair, I was doggedly loyal and defensive of them.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and you wonder where like that compass can go awry, where it happens so many times to somebody that you're like,
Yeah, well,
in such a spectacular fashion.
Well, I guess it's some sort of PTSD of a sort. This
yeah.
next, no, he's a good one.
Right. It's only a matter of time until I'm right.
Yeah.
is really
Well,
kind of it.
but also the time you're right really should be is when you become an entrepreneur.
Right.
yeah, when you're the boss.
Yeah.
And then that previous boss be like, I knew you always had it in you.
Yeah, they take
You learned
credit.
everything you knew from me.
Yeah.
So, he took all the assignments. He never said no to work. He produced the most pages of any artist working for Horace G. Elmo. After laboring over the drawing board at the office, he'd keep working from his family's kitchen table. His mother would be pushing him to clear out for dinner, and he'd plead just to finish one more panel.
Wow.
That classic one more panel.
Well, just one more panel, Ma. I'm drawing this guy's butt.
Yeah.
He said it was even noisier there than in Lincoln offices, but at least at home there was someone to bring me soup.
Nice.
In his later career, he would still opt to work from a straight-backed wooden chair like the ones in the old apartment.
Wow.
He was drawing several daily comic strips in different styles, all signed with different pen names. Jack Curtis drew the pirate comic strip The Black Buccaneer. Wonder if that's the Black Freighter.
Yeah.
From Watchmen. Bob Brown drew Cyclone Burke. Ted Gray made the Sinbad the Sailor knockoff. Abdul Jones. Abdul Jones.
Yeah.
It's a cool name.
We'll throw some of those images up on the
Yeah,
Instagram.
he's got mixed parentage.
By 1938, Jack was even making political comics. He was called in once to draw an editorial cartoon. He was called in for drawing an editorial cartoon when Chamberlain made that pact with Hitler.
Oh.
And so, the guy goes, where does a young squirt like you get the nerve to do an editorial cartoon on Chamberlain and Hitler? And he said, I know a gangster when I see one.
No shit.
Hitler was gobbling up all Europe. And that's straight up Captain America saying, I don't like bullies.
Yeah.
He liked the diversity of the job.
I know a gangster when I see one, man.
Yeah. It's good, right?
It's good, dude.
So much of him is in his characters. It's like, that's why he's so worthy of a profile. Like,
yeah.
it's all these little bits of his own character come out and you're like, oh, there's Cap. There's Ben Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, maybe I take Poland. I don't know.
Sometimes I feel
This
like
is a nice Sudetenland land you got here. Shame if something happens.
Austria, we basically the same fucking thing. Who gives a fuck?
Said, give me the Austria.
Well, yeah.
I had it up my ass. Unfortunately, Elmo couldn't secure long-term contracts for his comic strips. Some never got picked up at all. Jack never saw any of the bonuses Elmo had promised him.
Of course.
Recurring theme in his life, right?
Elmo!
Ah!
Never trust Elmo.
I'll tickle that motherfucker to death. He could be the fastest and most creative artist in the industry, which he was, or would end up being. But he couldn't seem to land that deal that would make him rich. He'd either work for a boss who didn't know how to exploit his talents or a boss who did and wouldn't share the rewards. So Elmo starts cutting back on the amount of titles they produce, and Jack only drew the strips that were selling. Jack had saved up enough money by 21 to move his family to a better apartment in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn.
41.
No, he was 21.
Oh, at age 21.
At
I'm sorry.
21,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
At age 21. In June of 38.
And so that's him, the parents, and David.
Yeah.
Copy.
In June of 38, readers first catch their glimpse of Superman lifting a car on the cover of Action Comics #1. The comic book, superheroes in general, were pretty novel concepts. You had pulp novels and adventure stuff, but the superhero thing and then books of comics as opposed to strips
Yes.
were a new thing.
It's fascinating for 38.
That it was so new.
That it starts then because it was like, so my dad told me, like, and my dad is born like 47, whatever, in Ireland. And he was going like, he's like, and that's over there, of course. That's not a kid, in Manhattan or Brooklyn or whatever. But he was going like, it was kind of like a rich kid thing. If you could have comic books.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Kind of like Keith Richards, Mick Jagger. Mick had the records.
Mick had the records, exactly.
Yeah.
That sort of, you know what I mean? But it's interesting that like kind of a novelty or what you could say is even a luxury.
Yeah.
Starts in the midst of the Depression.
Yeah, and you got to take whatever entertainment you can get at the time.
But cheap and
shareable. You buy one, you can give it to your friend. You don't need to buy one. You don't need to buy 5 movie tickets. You buy one and
it's escapism.
Yes, it's absolutely escapism.
Escapism was selling.
Yes, feeling powerless. Well, what is the escapism there? The Ubermensch.
Yes.
The Superman. Right. So like I said, there were comic strips, but then eventually someone would just compile them and make them into comic books.
Yeah.
So you'd have these 64-page books that be printed in color, sold for a dime at newsstands, candy stores, grocery stores. The successful strips would get snatched up by publishers right away, and so all these publishers needed to find new artists with their own portfolios, guys like Jack Kirby. Eisner and Iger was a creative firm that made comic books on demand for publishers. It's funny because Eisner and Iger were both the names of people who previously and currently run Disney.
Yeah, and one of them is destroying work.
Yeah. But this is Will Eisner from back in the day.
Yeah.
Who went on to, there's the Eisner Award.
Yes.
I think he created The Spirit.
Oh, I think he did the first ever graphic novel.
Yes.
Is that the...
Yeah, that Will Eisner.
Yeah, okay.
The Eisner Award is basically the Nobel Prize. It's the Nebula Award for comic books.
Yeah, it's the. I think if it's the one I'm thinking about, it's a really tragic, brutal story.
Yeah. They hired Jack.
I have a copy if you want to read it.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it on a Patreon before.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
They hired Jack, started production on his first full comic book, Wild Boy Magazine. Not that.
Big Ball Magazine.
When he wrote 2 Lone Rider stories for 1938's Famous Funnies, he signed them as Lance Kirby, the first appearance of the Kirby pen name. Ultimately, Jack Kirby became his permanent signature because it reminded him of James Cagney. He was offended by any suggestion that he change his name to hide his Jewish heritage. He just said Kirby sounded more American.
I mean, I'm a fucking idiot. I never would have. As a kid, I never thought twice that it was Jewish. I don't know.
I mean,
Well, that's because you're a bleeding heart leftist.
No,
With
but
progressive notions of equality and racial harmony.
An idiot.
But also, like, so did Stan Lee,
Yeah.
and like there was
Stan Lieberman, right?
or Leibowitz or
Yeah,
someone.
well, yeah.
But it's a thing where you go like, I mean,
People still do it. Jon Stewart is not Jon Stewart.
Right.
Jonah
Yeah.
Hill.
No, not like it's a convenience thing. It's just to make it sound just more homogenous and more like people do. Nick Cage.
Yeah, he's
Right.
Coppola.
Yeah.
It's a
Right.
thing where it gets past other things,
Oscar Isaac.
and it sounds just like
It's just easier.
It's a good name, Jack
Yeah.
Kirby.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
strong name.
Good strong name. May your first name be a masculine name. He would still, now he's working for the man now. He's doing okay. But he wouldn't forget his tough guy roots. One time, Will Eisner, the boss, was getting shaken down from a gangster, local gangster. The guy was pressuring Eisner into paying for his towel service. Hearing
Bring
the
the towels.
wet, dry.
That doesn't
however
matter.
you want. I mean, just fucking pay the.
You get towels. You want towels?
Give me the fucking shit.
You want towels? You got to get them fucking through me.
Yeah.
These other fucking.
How are you gonna do cartoon books without towels?
I noticed you don't have any
I
towels.
ask
in
myself.
That's a spot of blood you're gonna have on your face. How else you gonna wipe it up? Oops, I got a towel for you. The guy is pressuring for the towel service. Kirby stands up from his desk, shouts at the gangster, "We don't want to deal with you, and we don't have to. This is America. Get the hell out of here." Guy got the message and left.
I guess they didn't want the towel.
Not that crazy, but hey, you can recognize a gangster when he sees one.
That's right.
1939's World Fair with the World of Tomorrow shows up, and this theme would provide him with years of inspiration. This was the birthplace of his visions for the worlds of Asgard and New Genesis. New Genesis is from the Fourth World series,
Yeah,
DC,
Mhm.
the New Gods, all that type of stuff. And then Asgard is, of course, the way he adapted Norse mythology to create Thor as a comic book hero for Marvel.
So what was the theme of the World's Fair? Was it
The World of Tomorrow.
Yeah, it's very because Ursula K. Le Guin in her intro for Left Hand of Darkness, she writes about how science fiction is really just a take on the modern world.
Yes.
It is not a prediction of the future. It is just a take on what is happening currently.
Yes, it's so much that they've officially they changed the title of sci-fi from science fiction to speculative fiction.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's where like a lot of the people in the industry now call it a speculative fiction because you're taking where we're at today, extrapolating it X number of ways, and then by using it to examine modern themes.
Yes.
So, with every publisher demanding their own Superman, Eisner and Iger create Wonder Man for publisher Victor Fox. Kirby would also write comic books for the Blue Beetle, which they made a movie out of recently.
Yes.
But that was at the a lot of these characters from modern or the more modern comics like the Blue Beetle or the Human Torch
Yeah.
or
They got absorbed into other companies.
yeah, and they rebirthed them many times. The Green Lantern, like there's 4 different iterations before you got to like Hal Jordan, right?
Oh, okay.
Or your Guy Gardners. The Blue Beetle existed so much way before you got the Blue Beetle who had the alien suit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just another guy, color, animal.
Yeah.
The Tick. Yeah.
Yeah, the Blue Beetle was more like pre-Superman heroes like the Phantom.
Yes.
Phantom, remember when the Phantom movie came out?
Yes.
Billy Zane?
I really enjoyed that movie. As a kid.
It was a great, not a superhero, just a kind
Right.
of vigilante where it was
It was noirish.
It was very
Yes.
noirish and took place, it was a period piece.
Yeah, he had a cool car.
And it was kind of like a Zorro thing
Yeah.
where the mantle of the Phantom is passed down from person to person. And so it's supposed to be like the guy's immortal.
Yeah.
It was a cool, hey, Billy Zane.
It was. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Cool guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. Good guy.
Survived the Titanic.
Sadly. the Superman publisher sues Victor Fox over Wonder Man, with Eisner and Iger caught in the middle. Victor Fox loses the lawsuit. Eisner and Iger lose the Victor Fox account.
Shit.
Kirby's bosses ask him to go to work for Fox directly. They couldn't afford to keep him on board, and they could maybe smooth things over with Fox by sending him their best artist. Fox has a big operation going, and he was quite a guy. He would strut through the artist bullpen shouting, "I'm the king of comics!"
Who would?
Fox, Victor Fox.
Oh my god.
People would do their impression of him behind his back.
Of course. These guys who are artists who draw creatively and write stories. And
I'm the king!
You're going to act like a silly character in front of them? Like they're going to have the...
They might get, yeah, they might make a caricature out of you.
Yeah.
A kingpin of sorts.
J. Jonah Jameson type. Still, what we were talking about working hard for your boss and kind of bringing it back for your boss. And maybe this is probably where he saw that this guy wasn't worth it, because then he would still moonlight and work extra hours when he got home, but not for Fox. He'd do it for his own stuff at the kitchen table. Then he gets hired. Let's see. Fox Studios hires Joe Simon as the new editor at Fox Studios, who's just 4 years older than Kirby. Both Kirby and Simon were both about 150 pounds, but Joe Simon was about a foot taller at 6'3".
Fuck. 150 pounds? Good God.
I know, both of them.
He's a regular Mr. Fantastic.
Joe Simon says, one of the reasons Fox hired me was because I was wearing a very smart suit that my father had made me. That was where Jack was at a disadvantage. My father made suits, but his father only made pants. The three-piece suit privilege type of shit.
Yeah.
Simon was from upstate, Kirby's first friend born outside of New York City. He also smoked cigars, a habit that Kirby picked up on, very famously, cigar smoker until the end. Simon had been a newspaper art director, photo retoucher for Paramount Pictures, magazine illustrator. He knew how to be a businessman and an artist. He had been making comics for over a year. Also moonlighting after hours, making a comic for Novelty Press called Blue Bolt, the Human Lightning Freak.
The Human Lightning Freak.
Good name.
He was behind on a deadline on Blue Bolt when he asked Kirby to help him out, just thus beginning their professional partnership. By their fifth story together, Kirby's doing the penciling, Simon's doing the inking, and the book is signed by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Product always looked professional, but they never had a set division of labor. Kirby would say we both did everything. Simon was a great teacher when it came to designing covers and opening pages. After 3 months at Fox Studios, Simon quit and set up his own office on 45th Street. Pitched himself to the biggest of bosses. He understood contracts, could negotiate favorable conditions for himself. All the things that Kirby couldn't do.
Yeah.
As soon as he started getting accounts, he encouraged Kirby to start working with him full time. Kirby turned him down. He didn't want to risk losing his steady paycheck at Fox.
Yeah.
So again, a couple poor decisions in hindsight. But
Hindsight being 2020.
But when you're growing up, like selling produce with your dad during the Depression, like, dude, I got to take the steady paycheck. I can't risk.
Sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It was around this time that publisher Martin Goodman hit the scene, and this guy was like notorious for getting on publishing trends too late. He started putting out pulp
Pirates.
started putting out pulp magazines when they're way past their heyday.
God.
Black and white television.
Catch it. In 1939, the FTC dropped the hammer on him for sneaking reprints of material into his books without labeling them as reprints. So he needed new material.
He not only was he behind the times, he was also just ripping off. That was like he
took shit that was like, printed and put it in his own and sold it without saying this other people's shit.
Yeah.
It's fraud.
He's also hoping everybody else is so far ahead of the times that they don't even know that he's
Most of
ripping
the
off.
people-
Can you
old shit.
believe this shit? Meanwhile, the references are all outdated.
Yeah, they're all talking about Lou Gehrig.
So he's in need of new material.
Yeah.
Because all his stolen shit is, clamped down on. So, here the comics were the new thing, and he commissions Funnies Incorporated to create Marvel Comics #1. Simon had worked with Funnies Incorporated in the past, and the cover of Marvel Comics #1 was crime-fighting android, the Human Torch.
Whoa.
The book also featured the Submariner,
Whoa.
undersea anti-hero from Bill Everett, Namor, we know him as. Although for tax purposes, this line, Goodman's line, also went as other names, such as Timely Comics.
Okay, copy.
Simon made a strip, The Fiery Mask, for the second comic book, Daring Mystery Comics. So Goodman calls him in for a meeting, and he says, I want to cut out Funniest Incorporated as a middleman and just make Simon the editor-in-chief. And he was offering profit participation on any new books that Simon launched and a higher salary. Simon took the deal and tried to bring Kirby along, but Kirby still couldn't bring himself to leave Fox.
Curb.
Bro.
But so wait, did Kirby draw original Human Torch and the Submariner?
No, I think that was not him. I don't think he did. But
he was around.
Yeah, but maybe Matt can fact check that. He did commission their company, but if they did all the work together, it's possible.
It was written and drawn by Carl Burgos.
Yeah, I knew it was created by Carl Burgos, but I didn't know if it was
Which was?
Human Torch.
Human
Okay, yeah. And
Toro.
That I think it's not even Toro. Toro is like a second one.
No way.
Yeah, Toro, like the original Human Torch thing is like very convoluted, where it's like, I think it's his original, like the android.
Yeah.
And then I think Toro becomes one somehow, and then
Phineas Horton's Human Torch, right? That one.
And also I'm talking out of my ass here. I'm not completely certain, but then the original Human Torch is supposed to be part of the body of the Vision.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, and those are the timely things that is there any more? Original Human Torch, Captain America, Namor are the only ones I can think of that are under the timely banner.
As far for the big ones, like part of like the
that are still kind of around, yeah.
Kirby eventually joins Joe Simon after he pressures Goodman to give Kirby a good title and regular pay.
Mm-hmm.
They'd work together for the next 16 years and enjoy a fruitful professional partnership, interrupted only slightly,
Okay.
by the events of something called WW2.
Oh, wow. What was that about?
With that gangster?
Yeah. That Gangster that you can spot from a fucking mile away.
Oh, yeah. You know, you see him.
Captain America #1. Matt, I think I sent you a picture.
Uh-huh.
Hits
Wow.
newsstands on December 2nd, 1940.
Wow.
Almost a year to the day
Let's get
before the day that would live in infamy in the United States.
almost a year.
Yeah, December 7th, 1941.
And he's punching Hitler in the fucking.
One of the most famous comic book covers in all
Yeah.
time.
And stopping a bullet.
And they're like, also check out Bucky.
Yeah, his youthful boy sidekick, Bucky.
Hey, what's going on with
Yeah.
that kid? Oh, he's got these chestnut cheeks.
Plus, I'm also friends with Captain America.
Oh, just like you.
But so it has to be said here, because you look at all these things, high tide being 2020.
Of course.
But at this point, like you said, a year before.
A year before the U.S. enters the war.
Because of Pearl Harbor. So this is also, like, a lot of people are not down to.
That's correct.
It's still a very isolationist time. And it was basically up until Pearl Harbor. So to even take a stand on here, also at this time, the American Nazi Party would be big in the U.S. In New York, where Kirby was.
Yeah.
So there was
Selling out Madison Square Garden.
This was, it looks now like it's
of course, easy thing to capitalize
It looks
on.
like it's a slam dunk, and you go like, no, this would have been divisive.
Very divisive, especially like you said in New York,
Yeah.
where the Nazi Party is selling out Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Huge isolationist movement, especially after the events of World War One.
And it was. I mean, people just forget in general. Before, obviously, we found out Hitler was just maybe the biggest psychopath ever. People were worldwide admiring fascism.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, like,
a hot new thing.
Gets rid of all the bullshit. Business is going well.
Yes.
And it was.
People love their country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal. But so was the comic book. The comic book was a hit.
It was.
Huge.
Right
hit.
away.
Right away. Helped out that a week later, Roosevelt said that war was imminent and that America must be the great arsenal of democracy. Captain America #1 had the most exciting and moving visuals the industry had ever seen. But there was an issue. The MLJ's comic book hero, the Shield, and Rob Liefeld has talked about this before, had very similar costuming and came out in 1939. Their boss, MLJ's boss, John Goldwater, threatened to sue Timely Comics. After some meetings, Kirby agreed to draw a cap shield more rounded so it didn't match or didn't resemble the Shield's insignia.
Yes.
Which was kind of that more triangular.
Also, I mean, I think aesthetically, I like the round shield better.
No. He didn't even have the round shield yet. He just rounded the corners of that
I see.
triangular
Oh,
shield. Yeah.
okay.
He didn't get the round like the one that you and I know until later.
They needed someone to discover that.
They needed Wakanda for
That's
that.
right.
Thank you.
Goldwater would try and poach Simon and Kirby away from Timely, but were ultimately unsuccessful. Now you guys also you guys know Shazam,
Yeah.
Of course.
the original
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
That's right.
Bill Parker and artist C.C. Beck create Captain Marvel for Fawcett Comics. Regular kid Billy Batson says the word Shazam, and a lightning bolt transforms into superhero Captain Marvel. Shazam meaning he's got the strength of what is it?
It's because it's
Samson, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and
the Mandarin.
Mercury.
No feminine traits.
No. Was he got the wisdom of Hera? He's supposed to have the certain traits of these iconic Greek deities.
Sure, no, I understand. Who helped Odysseus the most? None of them.
No. Calypso.
No, did you trap him?
Yeah, she helped him out. Taught him a fucking lesson.
You're talking about a fuck.
Stupid son of a bitch.
He didn't know how to fuck.
Leave your wife. Come fuck me here on this island for 3-4 years. Go back to your family.
2-4 years.
3-4 years later.
Time of your life.
Nobody's gonna give a shit. They wanted a full Captain Marvel issue, and they went on the stands quickly. So basically, one of their editors knew that Simon and Kirby were the fastest guys in the business who did good work. And
So you're saying they wanted a fast Shazam?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So after they created Shazam, they saw that it was hitting. They were like, we want more
Turn it
Yeah,
out.
now.
We gotta sell it.
Yeah. So they made an offer to Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, and they balked at the initial offer because they already had enough work.
Was it Detective Comics then?
No, it was called Fawcett Comics.
Okay. Fawcett, yes, you said that. I'm sorry. But would that not be like in risk of getting sued too? Like it's too close to Superman? Like
I mean, they would eventually
be
go
head to head.
Yeah, they go and they're perfect foils for each other because Superman's one of two vulnerabilities is magic.
Yeah.
So very often Captain Marvel can fight Superman to a standstill.
Yeah.
It's oh wow, so Magic Castle he'd be.
Yeah.
Illusions.
Okay, sorry.
But he can go there, yeah.
Yeah. He can go
He can go.
as Clark Kent.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
allowed. He is allowed.
They presented Kirby and Simon with a bonus, and they said, "Yeah, okay, we'll do it." So they rent a hotel room around the corner from Timely's offices, and for about a week to 10 days, they made Captain Marvel pages in addition to their own work for Goodman. They were not super happy with the quality of their work, so they sent it in and they said, maybe just leave our names off the cover. And they agreed, going like, yeah, I think this thing is going to bomb. Captain Marvel Adventures #1, released in 1941, was the best-selling comic of its day. One of the great industry's greatest overnight success stories, and they left the name off of it.
What?
Yeah.
Do you think they did that because they didn't think the writing was good or their
they
art
thought
was
that
good?
their own work was just slightly subpar because they were moonlighting.
Yeah, and they had to rush
and
it.
they rushed it.
Yeah.
But I mean, even for
The
these guys' see work is
the readers didn't mind.
Yeah.
Also, it could be the hype that had already been drummed up for the character.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes a great issue #1 can inflate the sales of an issue #2.
Sure, yeah.
But word of mouth can get around and
That is exactly what I say happened with the Nightmare on Elm Street that our buddy Andras is in.
Oh, no, yeah.
It really becomes the highest grossing of the series because 3 is so good.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like, what's next? And that's then the highest grossing in the series. Not that it's bad, and not that we don't love Andras,
but it's
because
not the
we
best.
do. But
it's not Dream Warriors.
But the setup was what really fucking kicked it over the fucking mountaintop.
Yeah. 1940, Kirby's in the Timely office, busting out pages for Daring Mystery Comics.
Dropping pages.
Daring Mystery.
Dropping fucking pages.
Also, we have to say, I mean, just not easy.
No.
This thing of like drawing comic books,
creating characters.
Yeah. But yeah, the
drawing.
Yeah, it really is a labor of love, but emphasis on the labor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people working in animation who, even today, with modern techniques and chairs,
technology,
and they have hand
carpal
problems,
tunnel, back and neck problems, eye problems.
Yeah.
It is hard. It's labor.
Yeah.
You know, very akin to what his dad was doing and his mother was doing with the tailor work.
But also, it has to be said too that like a lot of what keeps them going is just like when it's on the page and you look back at what you just did and you go like, oh my god,
this wasn't here before.
This,
yeah, sure,
you
yeah.
know,
No, they
like,
love. There's a lot.
Getting
of
something out of your head and onto a page. I mean, like anything imaginative, it's incredible.
Yeah. So now they just like start busting out like, more superheroes. Let's go.
Yeah.
Their first new Timely comic was Red Raven. Again, guy, color, animal.
Yep.
An anthology series fronted by a flying superhero. Combined elements of Superman and Batman, but never achieved a tenth of their sales. Kirby's next creation was Mercury, a more novel concept. A god walking the earth, interacting with mortals. A theme that he would return to later, not only just Thor, but going into the new god stuff and New
Eternals.
Genesis, and Eternals. About a month after Mercury's publication, he used a mythological storyline in a strip for Daring Mystery Comics called Marvel Boy. Then they're still racking their brains to come up with another unique superhero concept, given that their favorite activity was smoking stogies.
Yeah.
Inside, smelling like shit.
Can you fucking imagine?
How everybody was smoking cigarettes.
These guys smell.
Everybody was smoking cigarettes inside then, and they're all sweating. There's
cigars smell worse.
Yeah, but they're all sweating through their clothes.
Oh yeah, but
like everything smelled like shit.
Suits.
My dad used to fucking hotbox the kitchen he worked in.
Well, he had a vent fan.
He had a vent fan.
And he's still hot.
But also he would allow.
Does this Shepherd's Pie have notes of ash?
Yeah, notes of Marlboro 100.
Is this a Marlboro Shepherd's Pie?
But my dad still would shut down dudes from smoking stogies in the restaurant
because they were so.
Yeah, I mean,
it smells so bad. Like you got to be in a cigar lounge.
Yes,
this is like I think growing up in
Vegas.
Growing up in the 90s, you have to realize like if there's cigarette smoke, it's not that crazy at all. Cigar smoke is still like
pervasive.
Whoa,
yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
not all smoke is the same.
And they're also puffing. There's a lot of puffing.
It's like 7 cigarettes.
Yeah.
So because they like smoking stogies, Simon proposed the hero could get his powers from smoke. Kirby came up with the name The Vision and suggested that he could escape to the 4th dimension through smoke.
No way.
That's great.
He could pull his enemies into that world. So he's not quite an angel, not quite a devil. Comic historian Ron Goulart said of The Vision, he never smiled and had no eyeballs. A staunch pessimist, he would end each caper with a gloomy soliloquy, such as, quote, The world seethes with terror and evil. It is time for me to hurry to where I am most needed. All in all, not an easy guy to warm up to. Very gloomy, smoky comic character.
Yeah.
And
The Vision.
did not do well.
Don't think so. No.
The world
That is the first appearance of the Vision.
I think the name The Vision, right?
Yeah.
The world is full of evil. I must head to where I'm needed. Manhattan.
But the characterization doesn't really change. Even when
A gloomy kind of no eyes and no smile.
he really kind of has no eyes, and he is kind of like, oh yeah, humanity's doomed.
The things suck.
Yeah,
Anyways,
he's like, I still love
I'm
him.
gonna go fuck my witch girlfriend.
Yeah.
Pretty good time.
Back in the real world, it's starting to look more and more likely that the U.S. would get involved in World War II. Simon would recall that writing superhero comics, we were always looking for that great villain. It was hard to find a better villain than Adolf Hitler. So they needed to build the hero around the villain. They came up, this is kind of getting into more the comic book, the Captain America origin.
Yeah.
They came up with the idea of a patriotic hero, sketched out the format and a costume. Simon pitched Captain America, and Kirby was like, "Okay, well, like let's make some changes here. Let me do the drawing. Let me work on a little bit." And like I said, it was a super hit. 1 million copies were sold of Captain
Fucking
America.
insane.
Amazing, yeah.
But he's not an owner.
No. He's the art director of Timely Comics, I believe.
Damn.
Yeah.
The Timely comic sales went up over 50%. Readers were flooding the office with applications to become the members of the Sentinels of Liberty, which is like in the comic, like, hey, write in, become a member. You know, it's basically a mailing list, but it's like
fan club
and
But yeah,
we know people that are into our shit, and we can sell them more shit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and also what you can then I think that came up in the seahorses. The Sea Monkeys episode, where it's like once you have those mailing lists, people. That is the
that's the business.
That's the thing today with your online
email,
info.
your phone number. Or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like these are people that are into this. Yeah.
You can actually sell that info for probably more money than you're making in magazines to fucking sales companies.
Yeah. Around this time, Joe and Jack get introduced to the new office boy, Martin Goodman's nephew, Stanley Lieber. He was 5 years younger than Kirby and still acted like a kid. He liked to fool around, and he knew that with his family's connections, few would dare complain about him. He ran around the office playing an ocarina.
Jesus
like
Christ.
Fucking Zelda.
Now that is a man who needs a beating.
That's right. Opening and closing doors on everybody. One time,
opening and closing doors.
One time, Kirby told Simon to straight up throw Stanley out of the room. They did allow Stanley to write. When we say Stanley, I'm saying Stanley, but he would that Stanley Lieber would go on to become the great comics evangelist Stan Lee.
Stan Lee here. That's all I remember from Spider-Man game.
They did allow him to write a text piece that appeared in the third issue of Captain America. That issue marked the appearance of the pen name Stan Lee and the first Kirby Lee collaboration.
Crazy.
Around this time, this is when Jack met a woman by the name of Rosalind Goldstein.
All right.
Roz's father and mother both worked in tailoring, just like Jack's.
Nice.
Roz was a lingerie designer.
And Jack liked wearing
it. Boy, do I like smoking stogies wearing women's lace.
Get a load of me. Look at me, I'm smoking a stogie.
I'm a bad girl. Her special focus was drawing lace patterns. The Goldsteins moved into the unit above the Kurtzbergs. Roz introduced herself to Jack after she saw him playing stickball with his shirt off.
Whoa! How old is he now?
He's in his early 20s.
Oh, okay.
So hot.
Damn.
She wasn't sure what Jack meant.
And he's beating the shit out of these 12-year-olds.
Stickball is beating the shit out of kids.
He's dangling Stan Lee out of fucking 34th fucking floor window.
Like Suge Knight.
Yeah. Give him one.
She didn't know what he meant when he asked her if he wanted to see his etchings. I mean, what could be so bad? Her parents were in the other room, and his parents were downstairs.
Yo, let's go.
When she saw his bedroom covered in comic book drawings, she figured out what he meant. This was her introduction to Captain America and comics in general. I started wondering what he looked like in swim trunks. He was quite a catch.
Whoa.
They started dating, and Kirby described her as the cheapest date in the world. He'd go downstairs.
Jesus
He
Christ.
means that in a positive way, I think.
He'd go downstairs and have dinner with her family, or she would come upstairs and have dinner with his.
Yeah.
Then they'd go to a movie.
Aww.
Pretty nice.
The Office now is getting a lot of feedback from Cap's fans,
Uh-oh.
and also, John, haters.
Boy, though, you can't trust the public.
A guy called up asking to talk to the artist from Captain America, and when Kirby got on the line, they threatened to kick his ass.
Little they know.
You up.
He said he was outside the building, but when Kirby went down ready to fight, they never showed.
No.
You fucking motherfucker.
Foiled again.
Fucking motherfucker.
Next, the members.
Give me a week.
The members. We talked about this earlier. The members of the German-American Bund upset at Timely Comics' treatment of good old Adolf Hitler.
He means
They're
well.
not even that bad.
But pretty good, actually, if you look at the accomplishments.
Yeah.
The Bund starts picketing outside their offices, but good old Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia was a huge Cap fan.
Oh,
No.
Yes,
No.
huge.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Wild.
It's Captain America, bro.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Mayor LaGuardia was a fan of Captain America
Doesn't Captain
when it was
Poughkeepsie-
Timely Comics time?
Yeah.
Dude, that's fucking insanity.
Isn't that great?
Holy fuck. I was so awed by that.
Yeah, dude.
That is fucking me up. Holy
Another guy
shit.
chiefing cigars, just being like, I love this fucking Steve Rogers guy.
I mean, my country, my Italians, they love Hitler. I don't know.
Not me. I'm an American first.
Yeah.
He told Simon and Kirby to keep doing what they were doing. From then on, Timely Comics offices had NYPD protection.
Holy shit.
And that's why you get an airport named after you.
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
That's an America airport.
That's how you do it,
you are.
Daddy.
Jack and Joe produced 10 issues of Captain America, and then they started taking advantage of the larger canvas size and started drawing for the page, not just the panel.
Very cool. Right. So now you can make some really good poses.
Right, exactly. You're not limited to that format, which is basically a relic of a bygone era of the previous era.
Yeah.
It was strips, and we pasted them together in
Newspapers, from
sequence.
newspapers to these,
Right.
and also probably the size of the panels,
Right.
right? And,
Yeah, the 9x9 was very popular, right? Which would then be used again in Watchmen for that reason.
Yes.
Watchmen was 9x9 almost the whole way through
Yeah.
because of it's calling back to that era.
But I mean, are you saying like the full page splash was becoming new due to them, and it was
Yes.
not in other comic books before?
Correct.
Even like Superman and stuff.
That's what I'm hearing.
No shit.
Yeah, I don't think Superman. You had the covers, but not full page splashes. Maybe split page
Yeah.
or
But that is
3 and 3?
Yeah, that's awesome.
should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a quick break. We're a little
Take a
over halfway and
break.
we'll breeze
Good.
through the rest
Perfect.
of it.
Great.
Be right back, folks. And we're back.
Hey.
Mm.
So one of these days, an accountant at Timely Comics takes Joe and Jack aside. Says, "Listen, you guys are owed a lot of money on Captain America.
Mhm.
You guys are getting fucked.
You guys are getting fucked, man. So fucked. Honestly, it's kind of erotic
Yeah.
how brutally you're getting ravaged."
You guys are like loser America, you two.
And this was news to them because Goodman had told them that the book's barely breaking even.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully, Goodman was making millions and not giving Joe and Jack their promised percentage.
Son of a mother.
An old accounting trick where
Mhm.
you put all the company's expenses on the one book
In
where
your- in your
you owe
yacht.
a royalty.
But it's the expenses for all of them.
That's right. So Simon and Kirby start talking to National/DC Comics editor Joe Leibowitz, and he basically tries to pilfer or pinch them. Or,
Now, do you know at that time is National/DC is it Superman and Batman even then? Is DC kind of more of a
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, it's Detective Comics, right? But they almost certainly at this point have Batman. And action must be wrapped under DC's umbrella at this point.
I don't know when they came together.
I'm almost positive. I mean, if it's 41, 40, it's the late 41.
They're kind of going at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they certainly have a lot of those that kind of proto Justice League characters, which we'll get to. So Joe Leibowitz from DC basically says, hey, well, I'll give you $500 a month and a percentage of the profits. And Joe tells Jack, like, we can't let Timely know that we're doing this. Back to the love life with Roz. When Jack started dating Roz, she had about 5 other boyfriends.
Yeah.
Good guys.
Good guys, solid guys.
Yeah.
Jack met one.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them. Good guy, piano player.
Oh,
Yeah.
tickling the ivory.
Yeah, that's right. And
Not just the
Jack
ivories.
met him one night, and as the guy played, Jack leaned over and menacingly and said, "It would be terrible if the piano lid closed on your fingers. That'd be painful, wouldn't it?"
Be so sad. I'm just using my imagination.
Nah,
I'm an imaginative guy.
I'm a comic book creator.
Yeah.
You might not know that.
I write
created
stories
Captain America,
about
Hero
heroes.
LaGuardia gives me my PD protection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You belong in Hollywood out west. You play too well.
Yeah,
So the
I know.
guy got the hint and dropped Roz, and
They love you out there.
he
Became a little known figure as Liberace.
turning him off women entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't date women.
That part is not true.
I
I made that up because I'm a little imaginative myself.
That's right. I'd like to take a peek behind your candelabra.
Oh.
He proposes to Roz on her 18th birthday.
Which is appropriate.
It is. You gotta wait.
Yeah, and they get married, and you know why?
The cream will rise to the top.
So true.
She
right.
chooses him because he's the cream.
Yeah, that's right. And he, broke that guy's fingers almost. So DC/National asks Simon and Kirby to kind of add their golden touch to some of their floundering strips. They rebuilt Manhunter into a superhero type. They requested a makeover for Sandman, so they put Sandman in a new costume, give him a kid sidekick like Cap's Bucky Barnes. Sandman even fought Thor in one story. So they're still working full-time at Timely, but National's paying them better and giving them more creative freedom.
What is it about the kids' sidekicks?
I think it's for the reader.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey,
so you're in the
it's just like,
yeah. Okay.
Hey kids, he's got a kid friend
Yeah,
like you.
yeah.
I mean, I think that's even on the cover of Captain America #1.
And it really works because it is, it is the audience.
Yeah, audience surrogacy.
In the time where I was reading comics and it was post Death of Superman and post the breaking of the Bat, the third Robin
And
Superboy I would always get them. Because it was just like, even though I was like 10, he's like 14
and you're
in
like,
both of them, and you're just kind of like, but they're also like in awe of what's going on, and they're kind of like, it's the reason why Spider-Man is so
perennially the audience surrogate.
he's because he's still like, I'm just figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
I'm just a simple newspaper photographer
Mm-hmm.
with fantastic and unimaginable abilities.
Yeah.
And a smoking fucking hot girlfriend.
Oh.
Hope I don't break a neck.
Oh my God.
You got a nice neck. Be a shame if something snapped it.
Yeah.
That's how Peter Parker talks.
That's right. Yeah, that's not me. That's not me. Goodman finds out that they were working for the competition and he fires them, but still made them finish Cap's 10th issue.
Terrible decision.
I know.
They're making you millions.
Yeah, that you're not paying them, but
Yeah.
it's
Well, I think a guy like that goes, I don't need him.
yeah. I'll get fucking
Yeah.
Stan Lee to
Yeah.
write for me.
I got accounting tricks.
Yeah. Hey. So they thought Stan Lee ratted him out to Goodman. Kirby vows to fucking kill him if he ever sees him again.
Fucking motherfucker.
Then it's 1941, December 7th. The Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor. Captain America #10 hits newsstands in 42, January.
He's sent to the
Um,
West Theater.
That's right.
West Point.
Yeah.
It's just a wisp.
Not everybody was excited to have them around at DC. Their most vocal critic was Mort Weisinger. He wanted to have final say over everything and not let these guys have kind of free reign over the offices. And he co-created Aquaman and Green Arrow.
Not exactly lightweight.
And he would assign them to draw scripts written by his writers, and those scripts would get turned into paper airplanes.
Funny.
When they got assigned to ghostwrite on other artists' titles, they flopped. Ultimately, the head of DC National just gave them free reign to make whatever books they wanted.
Good move, yeah.
Kirby pitched the Newsboy Legion, inspired by his childhood, a gang of kids on the home front fighting for justice. They made their first appearance at Star Spangled Comics, and fans ate it up. He and Roz had booked a wedding for May 23rd, 1942. So things are looking up. The day before the wedding, Jack brought his dog with him in the car while he ran some errands, and the poor beast got sick all over the back seat, probably because of Jack's horrible driving. A lingering odor of dog vomit in the groom's car didn't stop them from having a lovely wedding ceremony on the 23rd.
Yeah, you just open the windows, let it out.
That's our friend Jesse Latch's birthday.
Oh my!
Very
1942.
nice.
We love you, Jesse.
1942.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
When they walked down the street to the reception hall on the day of their wedding, strangers yelled at them, calling Jack a slacker for not being in the service.
Wait, and these strangers, I assume that they were on their way to the draft hall?
Yeah.
Fuck is wrong with
I was 4F. So they moved into a new rental house, and they changed their last names legally to Kirby, which didn't go over well with his parents. My father gave me hell, my mother gave me hell, my family disowned me. They came around. Simon and Kirby launched their second kid gang feature comic in July called Boy Commandos. Becomes National's third best-selling title, clearing over 1 million copies a month.
Holy shit. That's fucking huge back then.
I mean, it's huge now.
Yeah.
It's huge during the heyday of comics when X-Force debuted or New Mutants debuted or X-Men #1 debuted with the Claremont run. Like,
it's crazy.
A million copies is big anytime, and it's especially big now because comics do not sell like that now.
Yeah, oh sure. Yeah.
Now initially Jack wasn't drafted because he was a married man supporting 2 households.
Jesus Christ, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
They both volunteered to be air raid wardens, sometimes staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning in their civil defense uniforms.
Yeah.
Which were low cut and hot.
Oh yeah, she made her own fucking lace front shit.
Yeah, he wore it well.
Oh god,
Roz, are you out of your mind?
There's no way I'm gonna fit in the size 4. My bosoms are too big and hairy. You're gonna have to.
You are such a hooah.
But if Jack took her out on a date, people yelled names at him like loafer, slacker, and coward.
Jesus Christ, man.
But as the war, effort ramped up, they could see that it was only a matter of time before they got drafted. So they started working fast to create a robust supply of material for National. And Jack said he wanted to get enough work backlog that I could go into the army, kill Hitler, and get back before the readers.
No shit. Dude, amazing.
They were
anyway, this guy's a fucking nut. He's a super genius, and he's got a big brain, and
he's gonna kill him. Anyways, I gotta go.
Anyway,
save the world. So they're working on 4 strips simultaneously and had us outsource to keep up their breakneck pace. In 43, Joe Simon enlisted in the Coast Guard voluntarily.
Good move, yeah.
He was assigned to mounted patrol on Long Island Beach, north of Atlantic
Mounted
City.
patrol for the Coast Guard.
That's right. From horseback, he scanned the shores looking for enemy ships or submarines. Downtime, he worked on comics for National.
That's so good.
A few months later, the Army drafts Jack. He's about 26 now, and it was the thing to do. All of his friends were already serving. Roz moved back in with her parents, and Jack was sent to basic training in Georgia. First real time out in New York City.
Damn.
Makes friends with the guys from all over the country. But, we talked about earlier, a bit of an independent streak. Not like in rules, structures, hierarchy.
Uh-oh.
not a great fit for military life, but he did his best to take orders and keep his temper at bay. After all, there was a 10-year charge for punching an officer. He performed worse than expected in artillery, so he was assigned to the motor pool, where he had no idea what he was doing, and would just bang a wrench on the underside of a Jeep when officers came by.
So funny.
My parents weren't happy I was in the Army, but they liked the idea of me becoming a mechanic.
Yeah, stop with this art bullshit.
They reclassified him as a rifleman. He'd get woken up at 2 in the morning and have to hike 50 miles with a full pack and a gun. He did stand out in judo class. Out of 27 men, just him and one other guy graduated.
Hand to hand.
Combat!
Well, he knew movement.
That's right. And I've drawn this a million times.
Yeah.
He was assigned to F Company on August 27th, 1944 for the 11th Infantry under the command of one General George S. Patton. Heard of him?
I've heard of the guy.
Yeah, whatever happened to him?
A little less than 2 months after
Car
D-Day.
accident.
Jack was driving.
Yeah. Company F.
Oh, say, boss.
Oh, boy, something's wrong with the motor. I better pull over. Clang, clang, clang. I don't think we're going to make the landing. Say, you got some nice guns there. So it's a shame if something happened to him.
You'd be better out west.
2 months after D-Day, Company F lands on Omaha Beach in Normandy. Heaps of bodies all over the sand.
Jesus.
Casualties waiting to be returned home. They drove jeeps through bombed-out French villages. Out of 1,000 men in
He's at Normandy?
The 2 days later, but still.
A little less than 2 months after, but
2
still.
months. Oh,
But still,
there's corpses everywhere.
the waters were still running red.
2 months. There's still, those are
The
not.
French are not clean. You know that.
It shows.
You're
It
the
shows.
Frenchman henchman.
It shows.
They
yeah.
don't shave their armpits, and they will leave dead bodies on the
and
beach.
they're out there.
To this day,
Yeah.
to this day, if you die on the beach in France, they don't
C'est la vie.
Yeah.
They're wearing berets, smoking cigarettes, talking to loose women like they're
Yeah.
fucking actors
Yeah.
and artists.
He's doing his own thing.
Out of 1,000 men in his unit, only Kirby and 4 other guys came back alive.
No.
Jesus Christ. Well, Patton, notorious for.
Well, he's 5'3", so he's like odd job.
Yeah.
He's odd jobbing around.
Yeah,
there's
they're all
a-
shooting for tall Americans.
There is a
I hear the average American is 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
there's a documentary called Kirby at War. It's a French documentary.
Really?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. It's great. It really highlights his time in France in the U.S. Army and how it informed all the rest of his work.
Yeah, I was going to say, had no effect on his future artistic output.
He did so many war comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did so many monsters.
Yeah.
Right? And he did so much action and he did so many explosions. He did a lot of really what was technically horror, but under the guise of war comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the other thing too, like when we see, like with Serling and stuff. It's like this thing when like these guys that are very imaginative see the worst horrors you could see.
Yeah.
In your time frame, and then you imagine worse things, or
slightly different,
or more indomitable things.
Yes.
Yeah. Or even you're just like with science fiction. You're just writing something that is a caricature of your modern.
Yeah, just a different wrapping on whatever that thing is.
And a lot of leaning on that thing of like, oh, if only we had this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A super
then you
soldier.
got a super soldier, or if we all could fly, like the flying infantryman, like what we said is
rocket pack.
The rocket.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
If only we had a bunch of guys in the sky who.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the documentary, there's some talking about being basically crouched down in a foxhole with German infantry coming up on his unit. They're firing 88s at him, and like trees are being mowed down.
Right. Yeah.
It's like not only could we like feel the shells whizzing over our head like fucking supersonic mosquitoes,
Splinters.
But, like, you could feel the pressure change in the air.
Yeah.
As they would come by. So like even though you weren't getting hit or even grazed with the bullet, like
You're getting sucked in.
The pressure wave is like hitting you back.
Yeah.
And yeah, he talks about just like having enough and popping up out of this fucking hole in the ground, shooting his first German soldier, and then running up behind another one and stabbing him for like 2 quick kills in a row.
Oh God, that's brutal.
Jesus Christ.
Let's see.
Man, can you fucking imagine, dude? Oh my! I mean, like
that level of adrenaline affects your brain in a way.
And the concussive force of explosions, so much, like, you know, not everybody gets it.
And
you can get traumatic brain injury and CTE from all that. Never mind just like the psychological horror.
Yeah, right.
Like anybody, you know, that you have to kill, especially when it's hand to hand. If you're putting a knife in a man's throat,
it's sexual. It's intimate.
But also, you will never stop thinking about what that guy's like.
Oh,
dude,
especially the first one.
Check it out.
I mean,
so he's holding a brick factory. Kirby's at a brick factory with F Company or Company F, and he's talking to a soldier from Brooklyn about the good times back home. The next thing they know, they're taking enemy fire. He's up on the 4th floor of the factory, and he sees his new friend across the street get turned into a red smear on the wall.
Damn.
The SS busted the doors. One guy's running at him with a machine gun. He doesn't know what to do. Sergeant knocks his helmet against Kirby's helmet, yells fire. He says like it felt time slowed down. And Kirby shoots another German. And he goes, the next thing I know, 2 Americans are dead, a bunch more wounded. He watches guys up on the 2nd floor shoot down a German charging into their factory. And his body goes flying, and photographs start spilling out of his helmet. And those were pictures of him in the Hitler Youth, pictures of his mother and his girlfriend. And Kirby realized that kid was keeping his whole life under that helmet.
Not anyway a metaphor for some superhero.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's... I was thinking of, I heard this interview with Princess Diana's brother. Went to a boarding school where he was just, at 11, he was just sexually assaulted and abused.
Brutally.
Yeah. And the interviewer, Scott Simon, asked him, he's like, hey, so how are you today? And he's like, I'm okay today, but there's a part of me that is gone forever.
Yeah.
His bussy hymen. Right, John?
It's
probably, they don't, NPR is not allowed to say that.
Correct. Anatomically.
But
it's gone.
But I for people who are in those war situations, there's a part of you that you have to turn off, and it's like, can you ever get that part of you back?
Yeah.
So Kirby and the rest of the survivors walked to Allied Command Center in town. He learned that his reputation had preceded him. The officer in charge asks him if he's Private Kirby. You draw Captain America and these boy commandos.
Are you being serious?
I'm being 100% serious.
They say that to him?
He goes, you draw Captain America?
Holy shit.
You do boy commandos? Okay, you're going to be a scout. Here's a map. You go into these unsecured towns,
You're gonna be a scout?
check for Germans, and draw maps and pictures of anything you see. It's one of the most dangerous jobs you can have.
Yeah, but the maps are so good.
Oh, dude, the drawings are so fucking nice.
But
I mean, the action shots.
You also know that, like, you want a trustable map, so you're gonna get the best artist.
He gives them the map and says, go into these unsecured towns, check for Germans, draw maps, pictures of anything you see. Tell us if you find anything. Like, just draw it. Like, I don't know why you can't get a Polaroid. Kirby feels like he's walking onto the set of a war movie. The streets are full of rubble from burnout buildings, but also deathly silent, right?
Which is eerie.
It's a dangerous role, especially for just one guy.
Yeah.
Another time, Company F is camped out by a ravine when they're marched down the hill, and they can hear tanks and shells exploding in the distance. Caught between warring sides of a tank battle.
Oof.
Guys had their clothes literally blown off.
Jesus.
Naked, running across the river. Insanity. A German with his shirt blown off tried to surrender to Kirby, but he said, scram. Then Kirby saw a circle of German soldiers with their lower halves all blown off.
Oh my God.
And their bodies together looked like the pattern of some macabre flower. Damn. Still finding beauty in the destruction.
Yeah.
General Patton did make one appearance to F Company, or Company F. He screamed at an officer.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, why aren't these men dead? These men are supposed to be dead. Something went terribly wrong. If these men are still alive, you fucked up my plan. Kirby thought, well, fuck you, I'm alive.
Yeah. I mean, part of Patton's warring was
These guys have to die over here.
yeah. You send a bunch of guys to die over here. That opens up some part of the line.
Yeah, he was adjusted, and he had a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, and slapped a man with what was known as shell shock back then. Cause
Yeah, and I mean the thing, him at like the meeting of like all the generals, and he's like, they were campaigning for this, and others were campaigning. He's like, I just campaigned for total war with everything, everywhere.
yeah,
That was his plan.
great.
Like, you're just completely out of your mind, huh? Oh. Seems to be working.
Well, I mean, the plan almost did go according to plan. Like, only like 4 guys out of 1,000 made it back.
Yeah, so you almost did kill them all.
exactly.
Yeah,
A pretty good percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
No,
yelling
that's
at 4 guys.
Pretty good math.
yeah. He's yelling at 4 guys.
They joined the Battle of Bastogne in Belgium. Combat for months on end, high casualties, brutal weather conditions. Units lost. Both sides lost many men to exposure and pneumonia. By the time his unit withdrew, Kirby's legs were deep purple and swollen from trench foot and frostbite.
Jesus Christ.
Hospitalized in Paris, where doctors debated amputating one or both feet.
They said, are you from Florida?
One day, Mort Weisinger, a couple editors from DC walk into the hospital. I said, what are you guys doing here? They say, come outside, Jackie. You're going to see Paris. They had no idea what was wrong with me. They were having a great time. They said, you ought to see the broads here. They're great.
Jesus Christ.
I looked at these guys and called them every name in the book. They were so scared they got out of my room.
Whoa.
Jesus Christ, man.
After a month of treatment, he no longer had to worry about losing his legs. He gets transferred to a hospital in London, where a commanding officer asks him to draw other patients' diseased feet for science.
Oh, Christ.
Wow.
I mean, that's a good gig, but also awful.
He gets sent back to the States, but he's not allowed any leave, so he can't see Roz. One day he uses an insurance card to fool the guards and blend in with a group of guys leaving for the weekend on passes. And it took him about a week, military police about a week to track him down. And, desertion can be a death sentence.
Yeah.
But at this point, the Nazis had surrendered.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, all right,
Yeah.
fine.
You
This guy draws good. He drew me some titties over there on the front line. It got me through a lot of cold nights.
Yeah.
He made Captain America for crying out loud.
I mean, for fuck's sake. Like,
For fuck's sake, this guy made Captain America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when Captain America is overseas and like, how do you know how to do any of this? And he goes, trust me, I'm Captain America. I punched out Hitler over 50 times.
Punched Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, how many, like, guys got in because of Captain America?
Yeah, right.
It's pretty uncanny.
It's better than any American propaganda could be
Yes.
because it's earnest.
And it's organic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the craziest things to me is the fact that he wasn't hired to do propaganda for America.
Yeah.
He already had done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, so many, like, American, celebrities, huge in their time, were just straight doing combat.
Yeah.
They weren't like, hey, go.
Oh, no. Ted Williams flying fighter
Yeah,
planes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fucking It's a Wonderful Life guy, like a decorated soldier.
Yeah.
Stewart?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
many. I mean, all those fucking Charlie
Sterling.
Bronson.
So those guys
Rod
saw,
Sterling, paratrooper.
those guys
Yeah.
saw hard combat.
Yeah. Those guys, different kind of guys.
Yeah.
Good guys,
Mm-hmm.
different kind of guys than us in this room.
I mean, it would be
Cowards.
it would be
All of
a
us.
really good research for someone, obviously not us,
Laura.
to to find like the artists who died. Like, what art did we lose?
Yeah.
Probably nothing good.
Just immediately.
If they had the mediocrity to die in
Yeah.
heavy combat,
You got to get creative. Survival.
their arm must blow.
Yeah, you have to see the story before it happens.
So, the war was over within a few months because Germany surrendered. Desertion was forgotten, and they both, and he got an honorable discharge and he got commendations. One of the pictures that I showed you is from a battlefield in Metz in France where they erected a plaque to Jack Kirby.
Cool.
For real?
Oh yeah. And it's in
Because-
French and English.
Is it because of comics or?
It heavily features comics, but it also recognizes his extraordinary service in the face of General Patton, really.
Yeah.
But it's got Captain America on there. It's got some of his battlefield sketches. It's got Foxhole comics, which is some of his his war era comics that he would do he would go on to do later. And then it's in French and English, like I said. And if you keep scrolling down, you see maybe it's in the second photograph. You see his self-portraits that he did at the beginning of the war, and then the self-portrait after.
Interesting.
And you see
Look
just
at that guy. Ooh, that's a good looking dude.
the age
Yeah.
foist upon him.
Yeah,
just
the eyebrows,
a
the
short amount of
eyes.
time.
Yeah, just. Also, he has a pipe.
Yeah. God, that's crazy.
So he's back. No time to waste. He gets back to work to support Roz and the baby now in her belly. The stockpile of covers that he drew were still being used, but his pages of content ran out a while ago. So he's back on the drawing board, doing more issues of Boy Commandos and Sandman.
Can you just imagine all of that chaos?
I gotta get back to drawing on these
And
Boy
then
Commandos.
you get back. That probably drawing in those offices was probably, and also being with his wife, just it felt like
definitely boring.
it felt like Eden. It was after all of that war.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think that's the logical thing to think. And,
Sure.
And we don't know, but you watch the Hurt Locker and it's like, man, this fucking shit's boring, man. I was out there fucking cutting red wire, blue wire, red wire, blue wire. Fuck.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
but,
That's
but
fair. That's fair.
I think in the case of him, he had perhaps the most cathartic thing because it is imagination based, and you can take
You can work it out.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
therapeutic.
Yeah,
very therapeutic.
Yeah, art therapy is a real thing. It's a thing
Yes.
they use for people with PTSD,
Yeah.
among other psychological disorders.
And in the wake of the war, especially because I would always go for the EC reprint comics in the 90s when they were coming out, and of course, Tales from the Crypt, the HBO show, made me aware of them. But then I was like, I want to read the original 50s horror comics.
Sure.
But you see that EC is like, they have 3 horror titles because they were so successful, which is Tales from the Crypt. No, that was more magazine size later. Vault of Horror, The Haunt of Fear, and they had 3 different witch types that were all hosts of each.
Cool.
And but then you would have Weird Science.
Yeah.
And you would have Strange Tales. But the war stories were also this interesting thing where you go like, all right, well, this is like where people can.
That was the era that superheroes fell out of fashion.
Yes.
Even Captain America was kicked out of his own title, and it was all repurposed to horror and war.
There
stuff.
was kind of and there was a more dour, nihilistic kind of like thing to it.
Sure.
But it felt like it was. To me, I look at it and I go like, oh, this is for people that actually served. They went through it to draw, to also kind of gently let kids know, hey, this is what your dad's going through. You know what I mean?
That's good. Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Poignant.
Thank you.
Coast Guard discharges Simon. He lined up a sweet deal for him and Jack with a new publisher, Harvey Comics. They get all the work they can handle and get 50-50 split of the profits. But the guys in DC weren't so happy that they didn't get a chance to match the offer. They told Kirby they wasn't a team player. And they pulled back on his word. It's a team player. My team's dead.
Yeah.
They're all dead.
Yeah. My team of 1,000?
Yeah.
Of which I am 4?
Yeah.
They're dead.
Meanwhile, you showed up in Paris going, it's fucking awesome here, man.
Yeah.
The tits.
I would argue I'm the best team player.
Yeah.
I'm the one that survived.
Yeah.
Still, like you said, Matt, Kirby enjoyed all those special things about being back in civilian life, like eating a hamburger and chocolate cake whenever he felt like it. No more war meant no more rationing.
Can't do that in
And
France.
it also meant no more paper rationing. So comic books were poised for a huge comeback.
Right.
They bought homes in the same Long Island neighborhood, Joe and Jack. Their character, Inky, was a comic book strip artist who solved crimes that went nowhere. They had a play, they had a Broadway script that was rejected. And they had another youthful team of youthful heroes, boy explorers. That was okay. December 6th, Roz gives birth to their first child, a baby girl named Susan. The market just wasn't there. They've been both creatively very productive, but the market wasn't there. More paper available to publishers. Newsstands were flooded with comics. Bundles of comics were being returned to the publishers unopened and unsold.
Damn.
Like we talked about, it wasn't really superheroes that were going forward. Crime comics were going hard, so they started doing more gangster stories for headline comics. They made Real Clue Crime and Justice Traps the Guilty for a variety of publications. And then they moved on to romance. Romance comics were a huge new genre. So maybe like the other side of that coin of like, crime and horror.
Oh, yeah.
And then romance. And these...
and even some of that would find its way into the horror stuff where you'd be like...
especially Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, you'd be like, we got to get rid of your husband because we're so in love.
Exactly.
That sort of shit.
I wonder if after a war like that, the public is less interested in superheroes because they know that they don't actually...
exist.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to save you. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think that's totally accurate. They did comics like My Date and Young Romance that were very, some were more comedic and teen, some were more melodramatic, kind of like an Archie comic style. They got big cuts of the profits for that, retained the copyright. Young Romance #1 and 47 sold out around the country, sold millions of copies per month, their biggest hit since Captain America. This is where you would see, this is another example of Kirby not getting his due. Those Liechtenstein art prints were basically ripped from Kirby and Simon comics.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like almost straight up lifting panels and just like maybe changing some of the words.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, those art pieces were still sell for millions and millions.
Oh, they're still up. I saw some in San Francisco last year. You can see them.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, art's just money laundering, but those Liechtenstein's prints go for like in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
And Kirby not a cent.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a cent. He welcomes a second child named Neil.
Sup,
Neil? Sup, dude?
Sup, Neil?
So they're doing well with their romance stuff. Like I said, Young Love, Real West Romance, Western Love. They created another Western, Boys Ranch. Hey!
Okay.
They tried their hand at pulp horror with black magic. More eerie than scary, no major bloodshed. Gave birth to a second daughter. Roz did, not Jack. Not yet. Not until the surgery. Barbara.
Part 2.
Now, the year after that, Simon and Kirby launched Strange World of Your Dreams for Prize Comics. Bizarre Tales of Nocturnal Fantasies.
Emissions, I mean.
That's right. Hoping to jump on the 3D movie fad, they created Captain 3D in 1953. Most of their books for Harvey Comics weren't major hits, but they did meet somebody at Harvey Comics, one Steve Ditko.
Yes.
No way.
Everybody had plenty to do. They got paid on time. Steve Ditko would go on to be a Marvel Comics artist and creator, work with Stan Lee, Spider-Man, etc.
Also, his posing. Too. Much like
also
Kirby.
Famous for the
Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. Yeah.
The I love you sign language move.
Which they said was his own real body language when he would point to storyboards. He would do this, and he would actually make the thing where he was like gesturing to drawings.
He'll say.
But he would do that, and that's so they said
We got it.
Spider-Man was also so personal to him, and I think he said basically like Stan Lee hijacked it, and he was so personally connected to it that I think that's what spurned him so much against Marvel and stuff like that.
Yeah, among other things, he was interesting character.
Yeah, he's big into Rand too.
Yes,
he's
a libertarian. So yeah,
but he is a true oddball. I'm absolutely fascinated by. And his
Ditko.
Yeah. And his Spider-Man is like Liefeld always says. It's like he goes. Liefeld is adamant. He goes, the first 60 issues of Spider-Man is all you need. He's like, that's Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's your Bible.
Forever. And he goes, the style that he did, he goes, it's creepy. Spider-Man is a little bit more menacing. He's not so earnest and like
right.
But
sure.
like it's like once he's in Spider-Man mode, he looks a little creepier. He strikes more fear into people. And he said, obviously about his colleague, that was this let's say the second famous most Spider-Man illustrated.
You're talking about like Venom,
what's his name?
Oh my god, I'm totally forgetting his name. Co-creator of Venom, that does all the toys. Todd McFarlane.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. He goes, McFarlane was going back to that.
Yeah.
He's like, his Spider-Man was always a little scarier again.
Yeah. The eyes were a little bigger.
Yeah.
The poses were a little more impossible and alien.
He was always hanging in way more web where you're like,
yeah.
Why is he been shooting all that web? Is he brooding?
Yeah.
It was, you know what I mean? It was a little more like that. And he was like, that's not my favorite modern Spider-Man illustrator. But he was like, but McFarlane was going back to that Ditko style. And Ditko, I think I've always been fascinated by.
And also, like, a lot of the Doctor Strange stuff that he did was very also macabre
and also very trippy. He really
very psychedelic.
Yes,
very psychedelic.
So that's where then that leads to, the comic industry being demonized by psychologists and cultural conservatives, demonizing comic books for their impact on kids. And parents and lawmakers getting worked up into the anti-comic book frenzy.
Yes, we talked about this with the Sea Monkey episode about how there's these ebbs and flows of comics when the public.
And the EC comics, by the way, were like absolutely banned. Mm-hmm. That hard horror shit, because also they were alluding to sex a lot. We gotta kill your husband
so we can canoodle.
And they'll be like, "Oh, Clark," like that sort of shit. What's going on.
By 54, Timely's publishing under the name Atlas Comics and relaunching Captain America into a new series. This pisses off Simon and Kirby. They respond with Fighting American, which we've talked about, or we listened to Liefeld talk about. Very familiar character type. For Prize Comics, first issue portrays the lead as a dramatic anti-communist hero, but by the second issue, it's full-on satire comedy. Mm-hmm. The comic book market is contracting. Powers that be breathing down their necks. Simon and Kirby found mainline publication, Bullseye, Foxhole, Police Trap, and In Love tried to match their previous genre successes. So you have crime, war, police drama, and romance as those genres. They propped it up for 2 years, and they set it down and they sell to Charlton Comics. Mm-hmm. Joe Simon leaves comic for good, and they stay neighbors and they think of each other highly. But the partnership of Joe Simon and Jack Kirby ends in 1956, and that's where we're going to leave part 1.
Yes,
and we haven't even gotten into the bulk of his comic book creation.
Yes,
not even close.
That's amazing.
Back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
So, in this era where they're going to, I have to just say one thing, which is you can sift through a lot of those books, and you have to keep in mind in this non-superhero serial time, everything is anthology. But you would go through a bunch of shit to finally get to one that you
couple of pages
that you would be like,
sure.
You would be like,
Action Comics anthologies, Strange Tales,
But
first Spider-Man is an anthology.
But a lot of them were derivative and pulp and stuff like that. But you would occasionally get to one where you would be like, "That's a Twilight Zone episode." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's really smart.
Yeah.
And very, very interesting.
What was Spider-Man? Tales of what was the Spider-Man number
Amazing
one?
Fantasy.
Amazing Fantasy.
Yeah. And so that was just supposed to be a self-contained thing.
Yeah, that's it.
And then they were like, "Oh no, kids love Spider-Man."
We have a hit.
Yeah.
But like you're saying with the Twilight Zone thing, you know, to give up something so deeply important to you because you became this other version of yourself.
Yeah.
And now you have to reconcile those the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, you're certainly going to have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not just the things that you saw, but all the things that made you think about.
Right. Yes.
There's a lot of they talk about war being stretches of intense boredom punctuated by abject horror.
Yeah.
And terror.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of time of sitting and waiting in the mud and just being paranoid as fuck and or just downtime and just waiting, thinking, ruminating, and then just bang, 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 blood and guts everywhere. And that's gotta just impact your thought process for the rest of your life.
Sure.
And then how you deal with that.
Yeah.
And, we're fortunate that some of those people, one, survived, and then two, had the means, motive, and opportunity to express it in a way that came through for us that in these ways.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And like there's also a thing there too where, and I think about this because of reading Patton's book, which I don't know if he was Third Army, but that was Patton's big thing.
What Third Army? What do you...
That was like the huge part of the U.S. military that Patton led was the Third Army.
Okay.
So if Patton was coming in and chewing them out, it seems like they probably would be part of the Third Army, which, is his thing.
And he's the one that's driving.
Yeah.
Driving through Europe.
But I think they land in Italy though, so maybe it's not.
I think they start. I think they start there, and then they move him
right
north after that.
But Patton was talking about he's like, I went into one of these Italian villages that I had been through as an infantryman,
and I saw the same.
And I saw the same guys
sitting
on the same bale of hay on the same street, and so that's like an interesting thing too about the war that Kirby is in, because it's this thing where you go like, he would be scouting for Nazis in occupied France, and you go like, you're actually going through just a French town.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And people are like, they're like, yeah, get them the fuck out of here. We got Nazis in the barn. You know what I mean? Get these fucking assholes. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's a very exciting thing when you realize you're not going into enemy territory really.
No.
It's kind of friendly, it's
friendly occupied.
It's friendly occupied.
Right. It's friendly territory occupied by the enemy.
Yeah, which is a whole other.
So you've got the home team on your side.
Mm-hmm.
They're just tied up right now.
Well, so it's like a superhero battling Galactus in New York City.
Yes, right. but it also has that thing too where you go you see the moral gray.
Okay.
Of the occupied person being like, I'm not even supposed to talk to you.
Yeah, right. Because that's what fear will do.
Yeah,
right. So you see a lot of that moral gray zone too, which also plays to comic book, storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, we both listen to the incredible Rob Liefeld a lot on Robservations. And he talks so much about, he's like, I feel like Kirby was a guy that just drew things and they inherently had a narrative.
Right.
And he says, I think kind of Stan Lee inserted a narrative that was well done.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think this is probably where we're going in episode 2, is, who was kind of.
Who was the mastermind behind
what made Marvel successful.
Yeah, the words changing the idea of the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Liefeld, of course, as an illustrator, is like, let me tell you, he's like, for my money, he goes, comics start with imagery.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the beginning of it.
It would. I mean, would it be interesting to see the Kirby pages without the words?
You can tell what's going on. You don't need them.
Yeah.
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 But also, I agree with that to the extent that, I've told you, like, I've never read V for Vendetta because I hate the artwork.
Yeah, it's on that newsprint. The artwork sucks.
It's very cluttered.
And it's that 9. It's done in comic strip style.
And it's just visually annoying.
It was done. This was a writer first.
Yeah.
But
even a good writer can't get me to read that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
As good as the writing is, the writing is incredible.
Of course,
in V for Vendetta.
yeah.
But it is dense, and you have to chew on it a while, and it's, the imagery is not. It's secondary, it's tertiary. The imagery doesn't add much to it.
Yeah.
Which is to its detriment for such a great story.
Yeah.
I think he did a lot better with Watchmen.
Yeah.
And Killing Joke
I
and
think
Swamp Thing.
With this profile though, you have set up a thing here where I am like I said, like we hear Liefeld talk about Kirby and laud him and exalt him in all these ways. But I told you, I didn't know anything about the beginning of Jack Kirby in his life whatsoever. So in this profile, I think you've really shown how it's interesting that a guy that is, I think, we look to him like Captain America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you also know that he knows the dark side of America.
Yeah.
And struggling.
Yeah.
Bad. And having to, maybe go outside the system a little bit.
Yeah.
And be a little bit of a thug because he's
That's
like,
what it took.
He's like, might makes right. Yeah. And that's how it is in America.
Yeah. As I was going through this research that Laura did, I was like, man, there's a lot here. But as I just kept going through it and going over my own, I was like, but it all informs who the guy is.
Yeah.
And that's why it is, that's why it is a two-parter, because this first part, obviously Captain America is, one of the biggest, the biggest thing he did, certainly up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
He would later go on to do stuff that eclipsed that, I would imagine, but all this stuff made him who he was. I mean, I'm not espousing anything profound here, but like,
no, but
everything that happened to the guy made the guy who he was.
Sure.
To make all the other stuff that we love so much later on.
And also, specifically in the case of being fucked over by employers that you expect to do the right thing, it shows the aspect of Captain America, which is so much based on faith and faith in other people to do the right thing.
Right. And so also him being Captain America, not Captain Government.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Like, so much of the best Captain America stories are him working outside that system.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, I could maybe leave it here, like, punctuated maybe most emphatically and dramatically with his own service in the war. The guy goes to France, lands on Omaha Beach, right after D-Day. Corpses everywhere. Fights through occupied territory. He's one of 4 of 1,000 men.
Crazy.
And you get your boss coming in saying, why aren't you all dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're fucking up. You're fucking up my plan. I'm the king of comics around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
He's literally dying for his boss, and his boss is still not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of explains a lot about who the guy was and how he continues to grow as a man going forward.
I know we should close, but you made me realize that he had never been in any combat before.
A lot of fights.
And the first thing he does in World War II is land on D-Day. How does that not set the table for you going like, what the fuck am I in for now?
Yeah, landing.
Seeing all those corpses, going, oh, okay.
I'm glad I was second.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also, what do you feel
What are you throwing me into?
Yeah.
But also, what do you feel like when you land as that guy going like, like 2 years ago, I put punching the shit out of Hitler on the cover of a million-selling comic
you must
book?
Be like,
I guess that didn't work.
Is this God like telling me like, is this what you want to do?
Isn't it like?
Is this God telling me?
There's something. Isn't it like
cosmic? There's something cosmic.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Like you have to think like, I don't think I can get shot.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, he does it. He's like, Well,
Must have. I mean, LaGuardia gave me NYPD protection. What has God given me?
yeah.
Trench foot.
No, he's basically Paul Atreides.
Yeah. Just like a Paul.
It's Paul. Ain't it just like Paul?
Add that to the list.
Ain't it just like Paul to be one of...
Yeah, you got to get the original Just Like Paul from Taboo 2. And then you have to get Jodorowsky's Dune. He's a Paul. He's a plural being. Anyway, well, that's for later. That's for later. This is part 1 of Jack Kirby. Thank you,
Fantastic.
Laura Crawford, with the
Thank you,
extensive
Laura.
research.
Laura, incredible work. Aaron, expertly told.
Wonderful.
Matt, you've been fucking a delight as
Oh my God,
always.
thank you. Wow.
Do check out Kirby at War on Amazon Prime.
Yes, that's a good
it's really
shout.
well done. Really, it gets into the psychology of how the war affected him, what he did in the war, and then how
I've never even heard of that.
and
That's
how
so
the war
crazy.
affected his style and storytelling.
Cool.
Yeah.
Really good stuff.
And also, I mean, it reminds me of the thing of the guy I told you was the comic book store owner whose in-laws were like served with Stalin in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he was
Stalin, Jim Starlin.
and he was like, I've got some of his sketches.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my, he's like, you got Starlin. So it's another wartime guy.
Yeah.
That is like
Seeing the horrors of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
coming back and repurposing those stories in different ways.
But his thing is going to space.
Yeah.
Because he's doing like
But so did Jack Kirby.
yeah.
He- He went cosmic as well.
Yeah. And
They both did it just in different ways, but very honestly quite similar.
yeah, and people looking for just gods.
And in fact, Jack Kirby created Darkseid.
Yeah.
Starlin did Thanos. Thanos is a Darkseid ripoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're quite similar.
Folks, stay tuned. I'm sure
Fantastic.
part 2 is going to be incredible, Aaron.
Sure will.
Very, very good job. Matt, I love you.
Laura,
you.
great job. Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Laura,
much for the
good
research.
work. I'm going to say goodnight. I love you. My name is John Fahey.
I'm Aaron Pita.
Viper Soap.
Good night, everybody. We love you.